Hey everybody, Matt here from Matt's Movies, Music and More with my special guest Andrew. We're welcoming you to this week's episode of What Did You Think? And today we have a movie that came up on the Twister Spinner from the last episode. It landed on Sci-Fi, and to replace the movie that was previously picked in the episode for comedy, which I believe was The Naked Gun, the movie that is replacing that is the 1984 movie Revenge of the Nerds, one of my all-time favourites.
Oh joy.
Sorry. So, yes, for this sci-fi pick, as it landed on that, the movie it landed on is the 2018 sci-fi movie Ready Player One, directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Tye Sheridan, Ben Mendelsohn and Mark Rylance. So, Ready Player One.
Based on a book by Ernest L. Klein, which I had many friends tell me around the time was very popular and acclaimed in a paean to geek culture, and they were so excited about not only are they making a movie about this, but it's Steven Spielberg. So I felt that I had to add that Ernest is based on a book and mention its author. But yes, sci-fi. In the far-flung future of 2045, people are mostly living in poor conditions, and we mostly focus on an area in Columbus, Ohio called the Stacks, because it's caravans piled on top of each other. That's how far poverty and overcrowding has got at this point. And most people avoid their terrible living conditions by escaping into basically an evolved form of the internet. A virtual reality called the Oasis, which was created by this technical genius who's passed away, but Halliday has not only created this paradise for people to escape into, and it's basically you can be whoever you want to be. You can hang out with all kinds of comic book characters and superheroes and movie characters, which does play a lot into the visual effects of this movie. But Halliday has said that I've left 3 Easter eggs in this virtual world, 3 hidden keys, and whoever finds all 3 hidden keys will own the Oasis. They will be worthy of inheriting my works. So we partly follow our hero from Columbus, Ohio, Wade Watts. Like he says, he feels like he was born to be a superhero with that name. But also we follow him as he goes on this journey of discovering these keys and the friends he makes along the way to go on this quest, but also avoid the clutches of Sorrento, who's basically the head of Evil Incorporated. He technically owns the company that he inherited from Halliday, but if he can get the proper ownership of the Oasis, then we'll be able to monetize the Oasis and milk these poor peasants for every penny they're worth, bwahaha, because I'm an evil industrialist.
That's pretty much the plot, I guess.
Yeah, that's the basic premise.
It's an interesting one because I remember seeing the trailers for this film when it was announced on YouTube and stuff, and straight away what caught my eye is it really felt like it was tapping into classic 80s pop culture, such as it had the Aha Take On Me music used in the trailer, and you also had the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and not from the 80s specifically, but you had the Iron Giant, which is from a cult animated film from the late 1990s. So to have those sort of things attached to this, it caught my attention, but at the same time I kind of thought, why is Steven Spielberg doing movies like this? It doesn't seem like he needs to do movies like this because he's already a big name. It kind of feels like this would have been a project maybe for another director, maybe someone like that. Is it Kalansky, the guy that done Bolivian and the Tron Legacy movie, Joseph Kalinsky?
Yeah, the Kalinsky, I think. Yeah, that's his name.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have been better suited for someone like him, but I'm not knocking the movie's visuals or anything like that. Steven Spielberg does a great job.
Because this movie is already designed, I mean, the source book, I haven't read it, but it's designed to be 80s pop culture, the movie. The book is already designed to give people like you and me a warm, fuzzy feeling of our childhood, and the movie by default is going to give us a warm, fuzzy feeling of our childhood. And I think Steven Spielberg was directed to make those people go, ah, yes, we can trust this movie, because who better to represent our 80s childhood than the god of filmmaking himself from those times. But also, if anybody, I can't confirm this, but if anybody could be trusted to get the rights to all the characters and all the music and all the visual things we associate from the 80s that pop up in this virtual world, it would be Steven Spielberg.
Do you think that's why they got him then? Because of Amla Entertainment, the fact that they own the rights to Back to the Future and the DeLorean, and the fact that Steven Spielberg produced Back to the Future?
That would have been a big help.
Because
yes.
obviously Warner Brothers, who financed this movie and produced it, they already had the rights for the Iron Giant because they released that in the 90s. So in theory, Amberlin isn't part of Warner's canon, although for this production, I think it was a co-production with that studio, amongst many others. But no, it was fun seeing these old retro 80s things in there, and the gaming as well. Like, there's a scene in the movie, without spoiling too much, in which a bunch of characters are playing this old retro arcade game and are trying to work out if the Easter egg is hidden within one of the games that the main character Halliday loved as a kid or whatever, which is very 80s, isn't it? I can't remember what it was.
I know the scene you're talking about, but yes.
Yeah, and there's always these pros and cons about it. But one thing I would like to talk about briefly is the Oasis itself, which is, would you say that the Oasis is very similar to a world within a world, a bit like a Matrix style type thing in this movie?
Well, I imagine the Matrix would have been the seed for the original author, but I think it's just more imagining how far will the internet go in terms of its technology, and how we already live in a culture that feeds off the comics and the movies of the past.
But I think if you're a social media person, though, you look at this film and you think it's a bit catfish-like, because you've got characters in this movie who are playing these people within the Oasis, but in the Oasis you can be anything you want to be. Doesn't matter. If you're a woman in real life, you can be a man in this world.
Yeah, it is about the avatars there, yes.
So then there is obviously a little bit of confusion there, and I'm guessing a little bit of awkward sexual tension-ish between our main characters from the people that... Well, would you call them youngsters that are in this Oasis world?
They're meant to be youngsters.
Yeah, yeah. But should we talk about Tye Sheridan? Because I think he's a really good actor.
He can be good in what little I've seen him in, like the X-Men movies, but I have to confess, I did chuckle somewhat. There is a part near the end where he's rallying people, and he's giving the big speech of "Join the resistance, fight for the future, fight for our freedom." And to spoil a joke, there's nobody there.
Yeah,
or at least at first. Well, that's the joke in the movie, but I was thinking, this guy is supposed to inspire rebellion. Really? This guy, this dopey, mopey-faced guy is our saviour.
For those of you who are unaware, Tye Sheridan plays Cyclops in the X-Men First Class, the younger generation.
The reboot movies, which aren't too long for this world, but let's not get into that now.
The first movie I saw Tye Sheridan in as an actor, which I really fell in love with straight away, was Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, which I thought was a really, really fun movie. And straight away I thought, he's going somewhere, definitely. He's got something about him that it seems that he will be a top A-listing actor maybe in the next few years. He'll probably eclipse the Jesse Eisenbergs of this world. Hopefully. I'm not a huge Jesse Eisenberg fan without slagging him off.
You hoping for him to get closer to the top of that spectrum of
something
action,
like that, yeah. Maybe on par with, I suppose, an Andrew Garfield, someone who has been able to do these sort of sci-fi / comic book movies, but also has been able to go into dramatic acting, obviously with him being in Hacksaw Ridge and stuff like that. So I can honestly see him going in that direction.
So you liked him in this?
I thought he was very good, yes. But what I found interesting was I didn't realise this until I looked it up on the internet after seeing it involved in the end credits. But didn't realise this movie was actually filmed in the UK. It was all done. I can't remember exactly the location, but you can probably see why a few British actors are in this movie. Notably, one actor who I like, who has a little bit part, is Ralph Ineson, who many people will know as the evil Chris Finch in the UK TV series The Office, and also people will know him for doing the voiceovers in the Dacia car adverts. But in this, he plays the horrible, I suppose, partner of the Tye Sheridan character's mother, or is it his auntie? His auntie.
His auntie.
Yeah, his auntie.
He's an orphan. That's what really makes him a superhero.
Yeah, we haven't really explained much about his character, but Wade, he in this world he lives in, it's like he's looking for a way to escape, and his escape is the Oasis, like most other people their age.
In this world, yeah.
So in the Oasis, he's got friends in there, like he's got. I'm trying to think some of the character names, but there's so many characters in it.
With funny names like Parsival and Artemis and I Rock and...
Yeah.
I'm reading off a list at this point because I can't remember.
Yeah, because there's one who is one of his best friends in it, and you assume, I don't want to spoil it, but it's kind of a macho character. He's like, you haven't asked her out yet? You haven't asked her out? And like, oh, I can fix anything. And, you know, this character is like, he has his virtual world of being able to fix anything that Parsival needs doing or whatever, you know. Yeah. But would that be done with in-app purchases, like all these games, I guess? Although, is this character giving Parsival favours? I don't know. It's an unusual one, really, because it doesn't seem like in the Oasis people are spending that much money on repairs that they're buying certain things.
Presumably they can't.
Mm. But then, who could afford to buy this device if people are living in poverty?
Let's not question it too hard. Let's look at Sonic the Hedgehog and Batman and Harley Quinn on screen.
Yes.
And also, to be fair, this is a 2-hour movie, I think. So, yeah, slightly more than 2-hour movie, so you don't have the length and breadth of the book to go into the finer details. This is a CGI chase, for lack of a better word, a CGI journey, fast-paced and frantic, and...
The movie was released in the cinemas though in 3D, so if you were watching it in 3D and IMAX, you would have been blown away by the visuals in this. Although at times it might just be me. I didn't watch it in 3D or IMAX. Did you see it?
No, I saw it. I saw it in the cinema, but I saw it standard.
Do you feel that sometimes the visuals were a bit too much? It felt a bit like it was bombarding. I don't mean to be too harsh, but I would use the term CGI splooge for this movie. Yeah, but
so particularly when you think of the beginning and you see Tye Sheridan going through his neighbourhood, and we see the caravans, the camera tracks across, and we see all the different people plugged into their Oasis devices, and you think that it's starting off on the right track and we're getting the narration. That feels like it was directed by Steven Spielberg, or a human being who knows how to use the camera and to frame real people, real actors. And then we go into the CGI Oasis world, and then, like you say, it becomes It's breathtaking. It's breathtaking and vast and expansive, but it is like things being thrown in your face, and then that's most of the movie.
Do you think that beginning shot with the Tye Sheridan character leaving his apartment with his auntie or whatever and going to the building where the Oasis is very much on par with Marty McFly's skateboarding from when he leaves the McFly household to go to the high school in Hill Valley?
I think that was deliberate, yes.
Yeah, because I noticed, when I saw that, I kind of thought, that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to replicate Back to the Future quite a lot in this movie. But we need to talk about the other characters in this movie who are on the side of the creation of the Oasis. So you have James Halliday, Mark Rylance.
Because almost every Steven Spielberg movie now has to have Mark Rylance.
I'm going to sound very ignorant here on Matt's Movies, Music and More, which is, What is the fascination with Mark Rylance? Because I haven't seen enough of his work to actually become a huge fan.
He's a theatrical stage actor, and it's only because of the TV version of Wolf Hall and being discovered by Steven Spielberg. So he's been in like Bridge of Spies, the BFG, the upcoming project that they have going about him being a Pope who abducts a Jewish baby. It's only that has put him into more of the spotlight. He's a very humble stage actor, like I say. He doesn't like to make a fuss. So maybe it's only because of now appearing in TVs and movies that people have actually noticed him.
Do you think he's an interesting choice for Halliday? Because Halliday seems like a sort of geek kind of character, and Rylance doesn't seem that way.
It does seem an odd fit, at least at first. He kind of grows into it, or you become a little more accustomed to it as you watch the movie, especially with his wizard avatar. But it's definitely at first watching the screen and seeing him in that wig as like, are you sure this is what you wanted to go with? You're not just giving Steven Spielberg another favour.
But you've got the other co-creator, which is Ogden Morrow. He's played by Simon Pegg, who I love anyways.
Yeah.
And Simon Pegg's obviously a British sweetheart, I guess, to British cinema and stuff like that. And he, I can kind of believe, would be a co-creator of this. But the way he talks, it's very posh. It doesn't sound like he was a young gamer himself as a character.
Are we still talking about Mark Rylance here?
No, we're talking about Ogden Morrow.
All right.
Because Morrow, you don't really find out much about in this movie at the very early stages. It kind of feels like it's mostly Halliday.
For a very deliberate plot reason that I won't go into.
No, but I like
maybe I don't want to keep saying this. Maybe the book did more with him.
But no, I think casting-wise, I think they did a good job. The other guy, Ben Mendelsohn. Do you know any of his work? I don't.
Only Rogue One, this, and the new Robin Hood movie that came out recently. I think it's safe to say, based on all three of those movies, that Hollywood have gone, you're the villain, you're great as a villain, play the villain.
Did you think he was really good in this? I thought he was okay.
He was serviceable.
Because
yes.
you had parts in it where you learned a little bit about his backstory, which is that I think he was a guy that was like equivalent to the tea lad.
He was the coffee boy and he was mistreated, and that's the typical villain. I started off bad and you mistreated me, now I've taken over your company.
But to be honest, Halliday didn't treat him bad or anything. I think it might have just been that
they
were too busy.
He was too much of a small petty man himself, yeah.
Yeah. But it was interesting because you're watching the film and I suppose, you know, having these avatars, you're focusing on two completely different worlds. So you had this one scene which I thought was quite interesting, in which they kept on going to like a library, in which they were greeted by equivalent to an Ask Jeeves Butler kind of avatar, who was like, "Very good, sir. You know, I will help you find this," or whatever. And Parsifal in his avatar would notice that there was something here, and he'd be like, "I didn't notice that, sir. Well played," or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of plot convenience. Like, I'm trying to not give away too much, but it is like nobody else. Parsifal is the one to crack the first Easter egg or the first key, and I get it, he's the hero, but it is a bit too obvious that he's the one who's figured this out, and in all the years that this Easter egg challenge has been going on, nobody else has ever worked this out. Nobody. The first challenge is he does something to reverse something. Again, I'm being careful with words, and he's the one who figured this out. And whereas any gamer who's ever played that kind of game would have done that for a laugh within the first week of playing that game. And you're saying that Parsifal was the first one to ever do this and crack the challenge. And yeah, like it's just looking at these details that are supposedly tiny and minute. It's like, I didn't notice that before. Really?
But I suppose it changes in this movie because we haven't really gone plot for plot directly, because I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
But obviously you've got when Wade meets the character who he kind of has a crush about in the real world, even though they do say to each other in the Avatar world, don't say it. Don't say who who your real name is. That's what
because that's the rules, and that's kind of a nice wink to how some people treat social media. They see this as a different personality, and they don't want to reveal who they really are. Yeah,
but I mean, obviously they meet in the real world anyways, and you find out that there is sort of a resistance against this company. So you do find out that a few characters you see in the movie that you think, they seem a bit like they could be working on the baddie side, aren't actually doing that. They're actually on the goodie side.
Which is your standard twist, and fair enough.
Do you think the running time was a bit too long? Because I felt it was too long. I think maybe an hour 45 might have sufficed with this movie.
I started to feel the pace towards the end, however pretty and frantically cutting between the real world and the virtual world it was. Yeah, especially since it started to feel at that point like, I don't want to say that the two worlds were interchangeable, but people get shot at, people get fired in the real world, and it's still treated like, oh, that just happened, moving on.
Yeah, and there is a few scenes where it just feels like it's just put in for gratuity reasons, such as, without spoiling too much of the movie, but Warner Brothers clearly put this in, The Shining's.
That I will say, I have a couple of friends who used to be my teachers at university, and they loved The Shining in this. And I do kind of feel that almost if this movie is going to be remembered, and I mean remembered by the critics and the snobs and the darlings who look upon works of film and say, oh, that was very well done, it's going to be how much of a note-for-note perfect recreation of The Shining this was.
Yeah, because that was all done CGI and everything like that, and then obviously the placing of the Mark Rylance character within the pictures and stuff like that. I thought that was quite clever. But again, what feels weird about that is the fact that Ready Player One in the UK, was it a 12 certificated, I think?
I have heard people say that you've got a reasonably family-rated movie, and is it just our tastes have changed, or our sensibilities have changed towards horror to the point where we can look at a lift opening and blood spilling out and go, oh yeah, that's kids can watch this.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem really right of Warner Brothers to actually put that in when this is a movie that isn't even on the same BBFC rating
because it's a classic. You see, it's all right if it's a classic, and if it's Steven Spielberg doing this.
I suppose I'm on the believing side that no disrespect to the BBFC and the great job they do now, that a lot of people, kids especially, they'll discover films on the internet or late night television if their parents aren't supervising. So clearly whoever's seen this as a youngster, they'll probably watch The Shining after this anyway. There's nothing going to stop them. Internet is not protected enough to be able to do that.
That's kind of what I mean about this is where we are as a society.
Yeah. But I think we're going a little bit off topic here. I mean,
but we want to highlight that this The Shining sequence is arguably the standout sequence.
I would agree. It's one of the best bits in the movie. I just think that there are bits in it where it's a little bit slow, and there's some bits in. I mean, the humour in this movie, it looks like there's a bit of humour that's forced in. It doesn't look like it's natural humour and banter. It just looks like the character who's the one that can fix things in the Avatar world, that seems like that's the comic relief character. But at the same time, it just seems like a lot of the humour is kind of added where it didn't really need to be. It should just be taking itself as a serious sci-fi movie.
I'll add to that towards the end, the villain and his henchman get in a car, and the villain says, right, you need to listen to me very carefully, and the henchman, who's clearly had enough, just punches him, complete with twinkly, whimsical music playing. On the one hand, I thought, okay, that's something Spielberg would have done in the 80s in an Indiana Jones movie, but at the same time, you've got this amongst all the death and mayhem that's just taken place. You've got, oh, derpy derp, the villain gets punched moment.
But it sort of feels that the movie, if it wants to add humour, maybe it should have established that a lot earlier in the film.
Yeah.
It just feels like it should have just been a serious sci-fi adventure movie, a bit like something, I don't know, because I mean, even if you compare it to Spielberg's other produced films like Back to the Future and The Goonies, you know from the beginning that they are taking themselves seriously within that universe, but they do have wink humour. I suppose if that's what Spielberg was expecting his audience to go into it and see it like that, and Gremlins as well. I forgot about Gremlins to mention, because obviously they're the ones that mix comedy with them. But Ready Player One, it should have just been serious. I think it would have been a lot of fun. I mean, you know, I like the movie. I think the movie's good. I think it's too long, and for me, it's a once-watch movie. I mean, I know that's pretty disrespectful to say when you say, "Oh, it's a good movie," but you only need to see it once. But I really can't see myself watching it again, to be honest.
I can concur that I even said this at the time, that this is nostalgia soup, this movie. It will fill you up and you'll feel warm and satisfied the day you eat it, but it won't have any other effect on your body and mind afterwards.
Do you think that this movie will be fondly remembered within Spielberg's filmography of work? Because I don't think so. I think it will easily be skipped over when it comes to that fateful day when Spielberg's filmography is revealed on his epitaph, I guess. Because they won't say it, I don't think.
I think people will say he did a great job at recreating Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and that's it when it comes to this movie. I mean, not to be too harsh, it's kind of, to use a very tortured metaphor here, it's going to a birthday party and eating lots of cake and jelly and popcorn. On the one hand, you could say it's not very nutritious for you and it won't be of any great benefit to you, but you have a lot of fun and you do feel like you're tasting something sweet and nice while you're doing it.
Yeah.
That's the experience of watching this movie.
But clearly the movie found its audience because obviously on a $175 million budget, it made close to $600 million US. I don't know if that's a worldwide figure, but that's what we've got in front of us on our internet here. But
there were a lot of fans of the book. I can't speak for them, and perhaps ask if fans of the book were satisfied by this adaptation. And it's Steven Spielberg.
I suppose the issue you'd have there is, are any fans of books ever satisfied with movies? Because books will often be different to films.
Well, yeah, because the length, and you've built up the characters and the scenarios, the landscapes in your head that will never match what some director puts on a screen.
Yeah. So you got anything more to add to Ready Player One?
No.
Do you think that the Ready Player One might be a consideration for special effects at the Academy Awards?
That's if their memories stretch back that far. When you look at the Academy Awards, it's usually movies within the past 3 or 4 months.
Because visually, it's pretty amazing. But
I'll give you that, yeah.
It just feels like it's being done for that reason. It just feels like it's just, we got the technology, let's just give them everything they want.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can be too much. And with it felt like it was too much in places. The Shining scene was my favourite part, definitely.
So apart from that, would you say it was an assault on your eyeballs?
A little bit. It gave me a little bit of migraines. I mean, dare I say it, I suffer from not epilepsy or anything like that, but I do have sort of sensitivity to bright lighting and stuff. And to be honest, it can be very sort of strobe lighting kind of effect. Yeah. So I can imagine many viewers getting slight nausea from this movie. I'm kind of surprised it wasn't actually put on the box of the recent DVD/Blu-ray/Ultra 4K release, because it would have been an ideal disclaimer to have and say, you know, if you suffer with these, just be noting that there are some scenes that contain this, so you know, just be warned.
Well, if you're still alive, then probably they wouldn't have thought it was a serious consideration.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So so that's Ready Player One, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I think I hear something.
Twist the spinner.
Let's do this.
Right, so let's figure out what it's going to land on this week. So, without further ado, let's give it a spin. It's landed on Thriller.
Okay.
What's on
so
Thriller?
what does that give us?
It gives us the 1972 movie Deliverance, starring John Voight and the late Burt Reynolds.
Okay, this will be good.
That's convenient that came up recently, because Deliverance was only recently added to the Twister Spinner. But you looking forward to that one?
I'll be curious about this because I've heard about it because it's an old classic movie.
Yeah, so we're going from one modern classic to a classic.
Yeah, be careful how you use the term classic, especially in certain circles.
So I suppose that's the end of this video. So hopefully you liked it. If you did, send a comment. If you didn't, we still want to hear from you, because obviously we're working all the time on trying to make this channel a success, and we're always going to plug it, but be sure to subscribe and like our channel. Check out our official Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Did you know that we've got loads of other series, not just What Did You Think, but we also have individual solo reviews for movies, and hopefully music's coming up, as well as a new series that has recently started, hopefully the first of many, with Andrew here presenting, called At the Movies with Andrew. The links are all in our YouTube description, so be sure to check everything out. So from me and Andrew, we're going to say all the best to you, and we'll see you on the very next video. Bye bye.
Bye. I'm going to go on the Oasis now.